When our son was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, we wanted to know everything science and experience has proven effective. What we found was a lot more than we were shown at the hospital. With so many highly educated, seasoned professionals operating outside the bounds of conventional medicine, it just didn't make sense to limit ourselves when the stakes were that high. This approach paid off, and now we're bringing the information to you. Wisdom from the top integrative and holistic cancer doctors and healers around the world, all in one place. Because you deserve true answers to cancer. It's time for a revolution against one-size-fits-all medicine, a revolution that takes us back around to the old ways of healing and forward to the new. That revolution starts right here. When it comes to reversing or preventing cancer, this is where you come for the best of the best. I'm Ryan Sternagel of the Stern Method, and this is the Anti-Cancer Revolution. Hey there, it's Ryan, and this is one of my favorite talks from our Anti-Cancer Revolution online conference series. Stick around to the end to find out how to ask these healers anything you want yourself. But in the meantime, enjoy and take something you can use right now from the show. We have with us Chris Wark, who is a best-selling author, speaker, and global health and wellness leader. Chris was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2003 at 26 years old. After surgery, he opted out of chemotherapy and used plant-based nutrition and non-toxic therapies to heal. He began sharing his story in 2010 with a mission to inspire people to take control of their health and show them how to reverse disease with simple but radical diet and lifestyle changes. Chris reaches millions of people per year through social media and his website, chrisbeatcancer.com. Chris, how are you? And thank you for coming on the Anti-Cancer Revolution.
Ryan, I'm great, man. It's good to see you, as always. And man, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on this summit and share my story and hopefully encourage and inspire some people and give them some things to think about.
Yeah, and as you know, your story was it's been very important to Teddy and I for a long time, but especially early on. You were one of the folks we found not too long after our own son Ryder was diagnosed, and it always just kind of stuck with me that you, not to call you a regular guy because you're a pretty special guy, but back then, just being a regular guy, not knowing a whole lot about health and nutrition and advanced therapies and whatever, you were able to find your way through it with limited information back then, which I'm sure I'll let you get to a little more on how you pieced everything together. But your story, there was limited information just because the internet wasn't what it was today. Our story was, there was limited information because there just wasn't a whole lot on childhood cancer in particular, alternative, integrative, whatever you want to call it, that sort of thing approach. And we had to kind of piece our own thing together, just like you pieced your own thing together. All that being said, I usually ask folks in this event for just to give us a little better background on what their interest in cancer is. I think your bio summed it up pretty well, but I don't know. Do you want to get into what got you started down this path, and we can kind of take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would not consider myself a regular guy either. I'm definitely more irregular than regular. Unless we're talking about my bowel habits, which are extremely regular. I'm extremely regular. So yeah, I got into this world because of cancer, because I got a cancer diagnosis when I was 26 years old. And, man, I thought I was taking over the world. I was a young entrepreneur in the real estate business, buying a bunch of houses and, building an empire. And I was also a musician, writing songs and playing shows and trying to be a rock star, in the wee hours of the morning. And was excited about my life. I was a newlywed, been married a little less than 2 years. Everything seemed to be going great. And then I started having abdominal pain and ignored it. It wasn't that bad. It would just come and go randomly. And, but it progressively got worse over the course of 2003. Eventually I went to the doctor and they sent me to another doctor and did some tests and finally did a colonoscopy in December. And 2 days before Christmas told me I had colon cancer. So at that time, I didn't even know what a colon was. I mean, I thought it was like a punctuation mark. And the colon, if anybody watching doesn't know, I'm not sure exactly what the colon is. It's the large intestine. I had a golf ball sized tumor on my right ascending colon, sort of near my appendix. And they told me, look, you know, they biopsied it, so it was confirmed cancer. And they said, look, we got to get you into surgery right away and get this thing out of you before it spreads and kills you. And I was like, okay, you know, whatever you say, I guess I got to do that. And you know, that's the typical conversation that most cancer patients have. As soon as they get a diagnosis, they're rushed into some kind of treatment. There's a lot of fear and urgency surrounding cancer. And unfortunately, patients are often rushed into treatments that they do not understand, treatments that can be life-threatening, that can be profoundly destructive, and may have little chance of curing them. But they think this is just what I have to do. The doctor says this is what I have to do, so I have to do it. Like, why would I even question it, right? So I went in and had surgery about a week later on December 30th, because I basically just said, I don't want to be in the hospital on Christmas. This is the worst Christmas ever. I'd rather spend the worst Christmas ever with my family than not, you know, in a hospital room. So they took out a third of my large intestine along with the tumor. When they opened me up, they realized it had spread to my lymph nodes. They took out a bunch of lymph nodes. And when I woke up, they said, hey, it's worse than we thought. We were hoping you would be stage 2 and all you would need is surgery. But you're stage 3C, which means you need chemotherapy because the cancer had spread to your lymph nodes. And now there's something that should be said about this, because even cancer staging is sort of misleading and not exactly accurate. People think, well, if it's not in the lymph nodes, then it's all contained in the tumor. And if they take the tumor out, then all the cancer's gone. But the reality is a cancerous tumor, a tiny, tiny little spot, that before it's even big enough to detect on a scan, a tiny little lesion is already releasing circulating tumor cells into your bloodstream. And those cells are looking for new places to set up camp and form new tumors. Now, thankfully, your immune system is pretty good at destroying those circulating tumor cells. But some can find new places to set up camp and start growing. So the idea that you just take the tumor out and then the cancer's gone is just false. The average person without tumors can have thousands of cancer cells circulating in their blood at any given time. A cancer patient with a tumor can have millions of circulating tumor cells in their blood. So I didn't know any of that. I didn't know anything. I knew nothing about anything about cancer. And so I'm in the hospital and they tell me I need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy once I recover from surgery. And I'm just like, okay, this is my life now. And a couple things happened in the hospital that started my wheels turning. The first thing that happened was the very first meal that they served me after cutting out a third of my large intestine, which was Ryan's favorite food, the sloppy Joe.
Start my day with one every day.
Start your day, it's breakfast of champions. That's what it is. So yeah, when you take out a third of your large intestines, let you sleep for 24 hours and then wake you up and here you go, cafeteria tray with the sloppy Joe on it. And I'm just looking at it going, I was on some really good drugs. And I was still like, why are they serving this? Like, there's no amount of drugs that can make a sloppy Joe appetizing. And I was like, why are they serving this food? Like, gross, I thought sloppy Joes were just something you got like at summer camp, or maybe if you're in the military, and definitely if you're in prison. But I had no idea they were standard hospital fare, like that they're serving to sick people and cancer patients, and specifically colon cancer patients. Red meat is a group 2 carcinogen, like it's known. So that was weird to me. And I didn't know any of that either, but I just knew that it was terrible food, right? Like, ugh, why are they serving this in hospitals to sick people? And then the other thing that happened was the day my surgeon came in to check on me, which was also the day they told me I could go home. We were having a conversation about what was next. And I said, hey, is there any food I need to avoid? Because, he just cut out 1/3 of my large intestine. Well, everything you eat is going to go through that part of your body, right? He cut it out. He sewed it back together. I have a shorter tube than I had before. And I didn't want to eat the wrong thing and screw it up, right? Like, was hot sauce a problem, or Cokes, or like, what can I eat? What can I not eat, right? And he basically just said, no, eat whatever you want. Just don't lift anything heavier than a beer. And I was like, okay. I mean, it just was weird to me, right? I thought maybe he would have some kind of like, oh, let me scribble something down on a napkin. Here's some foods you want to avoid, and then here's some foods that are pretty good for the gut, to heal the gut. Didn't have any kind of list like that for me. It was just, don't lift anything heavier than a beer. So sloppy joes and beer, that's pretty much the best nutritional advice I got from the hospital.
That was the prescription.
Yeah, there you go. That's all. It's fine, totally fine. So then I went home, and before I finish the story, I'll just say, patients have this conversation with their oncologist all the time. What can I eat? What should I not eat? Instinctively they're thinking, I want to help myself. I want to get healthier. I know I'm sick. What can I do to help myself? Right? And they're often told, doesn't matter. Eat whatever you want. In fact, we want you to eat. Here's a list we're going to give you, Miss Cancer Patient, of food that you should eat. And on this list is ice cream and milkshakes and like Twinkies. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like they're telling them to eat high fat, high sugar junk food because they don't want them to lose too much weight, which is ridiculous on that hand. And on the other hand, it's ridiculous because many cancer patients are already overweight and they need to lose weight because obesity is the second leading cause of cancer. Smoking's number 1. Obesity is number 2, right? Not judging fat people, just telling you these are the facts. Chris didn't make it up. This is from the World Health Organization, International Agency for Research on Cancer, the National Institutes of Health, the National Cancer Institute, right? The American Cancer Society. Go ask somebody. Obesity is the second leading cause of cancer. But doctors aren't even telling their patients that. They're not even telling their patients to stop smoking. And when a patient says, why did I get cancer? The boilerplate response is, well, we don't know why you got cancer, but it might have been genetic, hereditary, or it may have just been bad luck. And when a doctor tells a patient that, what they're doing is they're basically saying, there's nothing you did to contribute to your disease. Therefore, there's nothing you can do to help yourself. Your only hope is us, conventional treatment. And so just say your prayers, cross your fingers, hope for the best. You just make sure you show up for your next appointment, your next treatment. And we'll do the best we can to take care of you. And it really is malpractice to not tell a patient help a patient understand what factors in their life contribute to their disease, because 90% of cancers, up to 90%, are caused by a poor diet, an unhealthy lifestyle, and environment, like environmental pollution. And the poor diet part is, which I'll talk about, the standard American diet. The unhealthy lifestyle is not exercising and smoking and drinking and drug abuse, or just prescription drug use in some cases. We've all seen the commercials and heard the disclaimers. So, but doctors aren't telling their patients that. They're not telling the smoker, that smoking is the reason they have cancer, or probably the reason. Smoking is the #1 cause, not just of lung cancer, but of many different cancers in the body. And I already said obesity is #2 of many different cancers, major cause. And so, like, if you're a practitioner and you care about your patients and you care about their survival, they need to stop smoking and they need to lose weight. Like, that's critical, right? They can do your treatment, that's fine. But like, if you really care about them, you got to help them get their life on track and help them make their body a place where cancer cannot thrive. See, that's the key to long-term health. That's the key to survival. That's the key to healing, is making your body a place where cancer cannot thrive. You can do that temporarily with chemotherapy because it's so toxic and poisonous that it chokes out cancer and makes it very hard to grow and kills fast-dividing cells. Chemo does that. It makes your body a place where cancer has a hard time thriving, but it's only a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And so over time, what happens is cancer stem cells become more aggressive and they become resistant to chemotherapy. And so then, even with chemotherapy, they can still keep spreading. And then what do you do? So again, there's value to chemotherapy. It depends on the type of cancer and the type of stage. There can be a value and a benefit to it. But for a lot of cancers, it's not curative. And so it might buy you some more time. But most cancer patients I know are not looking for more time. They're looking for disease reversal, right? They're looking for restoration of health. That's what they want. They don't want an extra couple months of suffering, right? They want to get their life and their health back. So unfortunately, the cancer industry is not really offering them those options. That's why there's so many people now that have opened their eyes up to take control of their life and their health and to do everything they can do to help themselves. And that doesn't mean necessarily walking away from treatment, but it means taking control of the things you can control, right? Radical diet change, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation, non-toxic, natural, alternative type therapies, what we call do no harm therapies, right? People can criticize these therapies all they want, but they're do no harm therapies, right? Therapies that have no risk of harm, right? Maybe they won't help. Okay, fair enough, but there's no risk of harm. And so what is the harm, right? There shouldn't be any restriction on a patient having the freedom to choose therapies that they want to choose that have no risk of harming them. So that was a long rabbit trail, wasn't it? So here I am laying on my couch after surgery, thinking about my life and my future and wondering what I'm going to do. And the idea of poisoning my way back to health didn't make sense to me. Chemo didn't make sense to me. I knew I was sick. Instinctively, I knew I was sick. I knew that taking the tumor out didn't solve my problem, as the medical doctors told me. And I knew that chemotherapy was highly toxic and that it was going to make me sicker. And it was going to cause a lot of internal damage to my body. And I didn't want to do it, which isn't very weird. Most cancer patients don't want to do chemotherapy, okay? And so I prayed about it. I said, God, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, please show me. I am a Christian. I love Jesus. I believe that he is who he claimed to be. And so I just reached out and I said, help. Like, I need some help. What do? I don't have peace about this. But I don't know what to do. And 2 days later, I got a book that was sent to me from a man who was a friend of my dad's, and this guy lived in Alaska, and I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and he sends me this book that was written by another guy who had claimed to have healed his own colon cancer with nutrition. And he didn't even have surgery. And I start reading this book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, this is an answer to prayer. This is exactly what I was looking for. And that book was about the raw food diet. It's about eating raw fruits and vegetables, going back to the Garden of Eden, back to nature, eating an all organic diet, removing all the toxic stuff from your life, and overdosing on nutrition. That was sort of like my takeaway from this book. Getting a juicer, eating only raw fruits and vegetables. And I'm like, I can do this. And I want to do this. I'm excited about this. This is crazy. And I like it. And
What was the book, out of curiosity? I've heard you mention it a few times. I don't know if
yeah, that book's called God's Way to Ultimate Health.
okay.
And it's a pretty good book. I mean, there's some stuff in there that I don't agree with now, having 15 years later and having done a lot of research on nutritional science.
Yeah.
But that was the first book that opened my eyes to the power of nutrition, or let's just say the power of food, to create health or disease in your body. And the author had also seen a lot of friends and family members suffer and die through cancer treatment, chemotherapy. And so he was pretty critical of the cancer industry and opened my eyes to things I didn't understand before. And that made me want to do it less. So overnight, I converted from a standard American diet, eating tons of junk food, fast food, processed food, tons of meat and dairy every day, and sugar, salt, oils, to a diet that was 100% raw, organic fruits and vegetables. Went to Whole Foods, went to the produce department, filled up a cart with broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, onions, mushrooms, garlic, peppers, sprouts, big giant bags of carrots for juicing, beets, celery, ginger root, like all kinds of stuff. Took it home and I just started eating it, and fruit too, green apples, grapefruit. And I was so excited about this, but my people around me were not. They thought I'd lost my mind. They didn't understand. And that was actually really difficult emotionally to feel like you're really all alone in the world. And when people don't understand what you're doing, when you're a pioneer, and I'm not saying that to like toot my own horn, but when you're blazing your own trail, you are a pioneer. And I was pioneering my own life and my own healing journey, and no one else understood. And so everyone started slowly backing away. Right?
Oh yeah, no, it's just to validate that, it's when we moved states to just in hopes of getting our son out of some of the conventional treatment that he was supposed to have, and ended up being successful in that. Found a team that was willing to work with us and take a wait and see approach and not finish his protocol. A lot of very close friends, or people that I thought were close friends, backed away in a real big hurry, not sure what we were doing. Family members really questioning everything. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But yeah, just how did you? I don't know. How did you cope with that? How did you deal with that?
So there was definitely a lot of conflict between my wife and I, because she didn't understand and wasn't on board in the beginning, and we had some heated conversations. And at one point I remember saying, like, I'm doing this because I want to live. I need you to understand that. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm saying no to chemotherapy, and I'm saying yes to radical life change because I want to live. I was blessed to have a mom who was a health nut and had collected all of these books from health and wellness gurus since the 1970s. So she had a bunch of alternative cancer treatment books and raw food books and like juicing books. It was crazy. It was so crazy that she had all these books. Like, I had no idea. And she just was like kind of like a book hoarder. And she had never been sick, but she had just gotten very interested in natural health and healing and nutrition and prevention. She had a subscription to Prevention magazine. So she understood and supported me right out of the gate. So that was really wonderful. And she had this massive library of books that I absconded with. And then, and she was in town, so that was easy. And so then, but I had all these other family members pressuring me, to do traditional treatment. And so I reluctantly agreed to go see an oncologist just to appease them. And we went to this cancer clinic, and we're sitting in the waiting room waiting to go back, and the TV's on, and out comes Jack LaLanne. on one of the morning shows. And Jack LaLanne, most older folks know who he is, but he was one of the first health and wellness gurus of all, of the world, like well known. He had his own TV show in the 1950s, black and white, talking about nutrition and exercise. And he comes out and he's like close to 90 years old, and he's fit and he's strong, and he's going off about nutrition. And he's saying, like, the reason we're all so sick is because we're eating all this man-made processed food. If man made it, don't eat it. And he's talking about fruits and vegetables and juicing. And I'm like, I can't believe this is on right now while I'm sitting here in the cancer clinic. Like, this is for me. Like, this message is for me right now. Like, this is amazing. And I turned to my wife and I was like, can you believe this is on right now? And she was like, it's pretty weird. We go back and see the oncologist, and he gives me the standard boilerplate pitch, man. He's just like, you have young adult colon cancer. You have about a 60% chance of living 5 years with treatment. And, it's very aggressive in young adults. And we want to give you 5-FU and leucovorin. And so I asked him about the raw food diet. He said, no, you can't do that. It'll fight the chemo. I asked him, are there any alternative therapies available? And at that point in the conversation, his demeanor completely flipped from like the sort of, robotic, pleasant, professional oncologist to very arrogant, condescending jerk, basically. And he started sort of like just going off. And he said, if you don't do chemotherapy, well, he said, no, there are no alternative therapies available. If you don't do chemotherapy, you're insane. And then he's just talking and talking and talking. I don't even know what he said, because there was so much fear that just came over me that I just kind of ended up in the deer in the headlights, state. And when you're afraid, your stress hormones start pumping. It clouds your judgment. You can't think straight. You get tunnel vision, your pulse rate increases, your palms get sweaty. Your physiology changes completely. And he's doing everything he can and saying everything he can think of to convince me to do chemotherapy. And the message was pretty clear. If you don't do this, you're going to die. Right? If you don't do what I say, you're going to die. And one thing he said in the middle of his rant, which stood out to us, was he was like, just kind of like pulling every little rabbit out of his hat, that he had, that he'd like to say to people to talk them into chemo. And he said, look, I'm not saying this because I need your business, which was weird, like, why would you say that? I didn't even say anything about business. I wasn't like, don't you make your money off cancer patients? I didn't say anything about money or business or anything. And he just like volunteers.
Didn't know it was a business transaction you were.
Yeah, right. And then it's like, oh, wait a second. Oh, I'm a customer of this business. That is what this is, like him saying it wasn't, like was so revealing that, oh, the average cancer patient's worth over $300,000 in revenue to the cancer industry from surgery, chemotherapy treatments, radiation treatments, from reconstructive surgery, from breast reconstruction, from nipple tattoos, wigs, on and on and on, man.
Yeah, we got over $1 million with my son, real quick.
Over $1 million in treatments for your son.
Yeah, I mean, we got him at least half of what he was supposed to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and a large percentage of cancer patients go bankrupt because the treatments are so outrageously expensive. New drugs now cost over $1 million a year. Some of these new drugs, the average new drug is like $100,000 a month. It's unbelievable how crazy the cost is. And these are, it'd be different if like we're curing every cancer every time, $1 million. And you're like, $1 million to save my life. Okay. All right. And of course, if you have insurance, you're not going to pay $1 million of it, but it's going to cost you a pretty good chunk. Could cost you up to 200,000.
Yeah.
And who's got that? I didn't have that. Like, I didn't have any money, literally. I mean, like, I had a couple $1,000s in the bank, it was like, that was about it. So, and I'm self-employed. So anyway, I didn't know any of that stuff. But he said, I don't, it's not like I need your business. And I just thought it was weird. And so we finally got out of there, and I had been effectively brainwashed by him and manipulated through fear to go straight to the desk before I left and make an appointment to come back in like 3 weeks to get a port put in to start chemotherapy. And we walked to my wife's car and sat in her car and just cried, man. And, you know, and I choked out a prayer, and I was so discouraged. I was so depressed and afraid. My hopes were shattered. You know, I walked into that clinic confident, feeling good. I'd been on a raw food diet for a week. I'd kind of gotten over the hump and was starting to adjust to it. My energy levels were really good. I was excited about the future, and I was very hopeful. And man, he just crushed my hopes under his heel. And that was a really bad day. It was a really hard day. But I'm fortunate and thankful that I, you know, unlike so many cancer patients that are rushed into chemo like the next day after they're diagnosed, I had weeks before they could start because of the surgery. And I went home and fired up the juicer, man. You know, it's like, I don't know what else to do. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, you know? And when the day comes, I guess I'll make a decision if I'm going to do chemo or not. And it's kind of like this, you know, you got two paths. You've got the wide paved, brightly lit road that everyone's going down, and it's the road that takes you to the train station. You get on the chemo train, and it's the state of the art, like, you know, all the bells and whistles kind of train, and everybody's cheering you on at the train station. We love you. We got a sign for you. We've made some t-shirts, you know, your team, Chris. You know what I'm saying? They're having bake sales, and they're bringing you all kinds of goodies. And you get in there and you sit in the big comfy chair, and they come by with a little cart, a bunch of little snacks for you. So you want a Diet Coke with your chemo? And a Twinkie and a Snickers bar? Or like, do you want an ice cream sandwich? And then off you go. And once that train starts, man, it's real hard to get off. And as soon as it starts, the suffering begins too, right? So as nice and sweet and kind and loving and caring as everybody is, you're about to suffer. Like, that's real. And what also is real is no one can promise you a cure, and no one can tell you what's going to happen when you're at the end of the line. Do you get to get off cancer-free? Are you going to have to get back on because it comes back? Or do they just drop you off and say, we've done all we can, we're sorry? Like, what's at the end of that line? So, like, I could see through all the shiny stuff, and it was scary. And then the other option I had was the path into the jungle that, you know, hardly anyone had gone before me. It was overgrown. I'd have to hack my way through in the dark with no support, and everyone basically telling me, don't go that way because it's a mistake. And that was scary too. So I got two scary options. And I wish I had one that wasn't, you know. It's like, they're both scary. What do I do, you know? But I knew that jungle path, I knew that's the path I had to take. I knew it. I knew I had to go that way. And I had to step out in faith and trust God and just believe that, you know, God, I believe you're going to work this for my good. And that if you illuminated this path for me, that you're going to get me through the jungle, right? You will get me through. I'm trusting you here big time. So it was just like Jesus and a juicer, man. It's like all I got. And so when the day came to go get the port put in, I woke up that morning and I was like, I'm not going to do it. You know, I know the way I've got to go. And I had a sense too, that if I could make it through, that maybe I could show other people the way. And so I had a little bit of hopeful purpose behind what I did, that maybe I could be helpful to other people in the future in some small way. I didn't know it was going to be a big way. I wasn't thinking about writing a book. I wasn't thinking about having a website. Like I didn't even, there wasn't no blogging wasn't even a thing in 2004. If it was, I'd never heard of it. And I was just thinking about survival. That was it. So I was also very fortunate, thankful, blessed that I quickly found a naturopathic doctor who connected me with an integrative oncologist, and I slowly built my healing team. And after that terrible appointment with the oncologist, my wife's opinion of the cancer industry changed too. And even though she, wasn't sure exactly how to support me, she started to understand, why I didn't want to go that way. And because she saw how they treated us, it was like, why would I work with anyone who treats me that way? And for anybody watching who has cancer, like, you don't have to work with the first doctor you're assigned to. If they don't support you, if they roll their eyes at you, if they talk down to you, fire that person. Go find another doctor. There's a lot of good doctors out there who understand the value of diet and lifestyle medicine. Like, it can make all the difference between survival and death, right? Even if you do all conventional treatments, like what you're doing at home can make the difference between life and death.
Well, yeah, and that's, you had made the point earlier about just doing everything you possibly could. And that's something we're trying to really portray with this summit is, whether or not you're going the conventional route, is there's so much you can do, and why would you not do everything you could do? That's, that was our MO from day one. When our son was diagnosed with cancer, it's like, why wouldn't we do everything we possibly could, aside from the conventional treatments that we didn't even have a choice on at first, but, we were going to let that stop us from doing everything else on the side, or, in conjunction with it, I should say. And yeah, just to point out, there are a whole ton of MDs on this event, medical doctors who have seen the light, so to speak, and integrate the best of both worlds. There's a lot of NDs, naturopathic doctors, who work with people, alongside of their conventional oncologist or their integrative oncologist, that sort of thing. So, yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed out the building your healing team, because it's a big thing.
It's critical. You got to build your team, and so it takes a little bit of work. It's a little intimidating, but you just got to step out. Right? You got to step out into the unknown, step out in faith, and start your healing adventure. This is what I tell people every day, right? You have to treat it like an adventure. It is. It's a whole new season of your life, full of, you're going to meet all kinds of new people and have experiences that are scary and hilarious and unbelievable. Like, embrace it and write everything down, because you will have a crazy story to tell when you get to the other side. I created a downloadable guide that's free called 20 Questions for Your Oncologist. And it's on chrisbeatcancer.com. It's easy to find. And every patient, every caregiver, and if you're serious about prevention too, you should go through this guide. It's a 1-hour audio program with downloadable guide and stuff. But I will teach you the most critical questions to ask your oncologist, and also help you get a peek behind the curtain of the cancer industry too. And the biggest mistake that cancer patients make, besides being rushed into treatment out of fear, is not asking the right questions, because they don't know what to ask, right? They're just like, will I be sick? Am I going to have to take time off of work? Is my hair going to fall out? I mean, those are questions you should ask, sure, but they're not the most important questions. And I'll give you an idea. The most important question is, will this treatment cure my cancer? And a lot of patients, they're scared of the answer, so they don't ask it, right? So, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more questions that you need to ask. So please go download that free guide. Just go to chrisbeatcancer.com. You'll see it. It's right there in the right-hand sidebar, 20 Questions for Your Oncologist. And I want to encourage people watching and listening to read my book. Read my book, okay? I mean, you will learn so much about the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the cancer industry, and about nutritional science, anti-cancer nutritional science, and lifestyle medicine, the things that I did and that so many others have done to help themselves survive and heal. It's all in the book, Chris Beat Cancer. Do I have one? Yes, right here. Look at it. There it is. Shameless plug. And the cover's beautiful. So You know, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but judge my book by its cover because it's got a great cover.
It's also got a really good, what do you call it? The spine of it. I've been
Yeah.
thinking about that. Like on my bookshelf, it's, you know, your book stands out above. It's bright blue. It's big. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Like
If
boom.
I ever have a book, I'm going to really make that spine stand out. So people know it's on the shelf for
It
sure.
really pops. It does. I'm super proud of the cover, but more proud of what's on the inside for sure. So, okay, so let's talk about probably what people are wondering is, well, so what happened next? Well, I built a healing team. I really just focused on removing everything from my life that could be contributing to my disease, right? Because I had this epiphany, the way you're living is killing you. And if that's true, if I just assume that is true, then I need to change the way I'm living. And if I need to change the way I'm living, then I've got to take a step back and look at my whole life, right? All of my habits, my diet, my thoughts, my emotions, like I got to look at it all, spread it out, all out on the table and sort through it, right? And keep the things that are of value and toss the things that are not serving me, that may be hurting me and keeping me sick, making me sick. So this is not something you can do overnight. This is something that takes a little time. But all these small decisions, you know, we make like 500 decisions a day. It's kind of crazy. But all the small decisions, all the small changes that you make add up to a big result. So you don't have to make 500 new decisions tomorrow, right? But one by one, you start making different decisions, right? Decisions about what you're putting in your mouth, decisions about what you're putting on your body. So like non-toxic body care products instead of this chemical, commercially produced garbage. Decisions about where you spend your time, who you spend your time with, what you spend your time doing. Decisions to deciding to love yourself enough to exercise. Because exercise is one of the most powerful things you can do besides a diet to help your body prevent and heal cancer. It's amazing. Exercise switches on cancer preventative genes and it switches off cancer promoting genes. Exercise does that. Doesn't matter what kind. Any kind of exercise you like, doesn't matter. Just get moving, get a little bit sweaty, get your heart pumping. And so I just started making all these little changes, all these little shifts, you know, and like I said, all the small changes add up to big results. And I'm not about promoting quackery or magic bullets or lotions or potions or whatever to cure cancer. Like that stuff doesn't work, okay? But people are healing their disease, some of them with no conventional treatment, others alongside conventional treatment, and sometimes after conventional treatment fails. And they're healing because they take full responsibility for their life and their health, and they change everything. And they focus intently on health and healing. So it's no small undertaking, but if you have a strong will to live, if you want to live, if you know what you want to live for, if you have a clear image in your mind about why you want to keep living, then these kind of decisions are easy. You know, people ask me a lot of times when I'm interviewed, like, was it hard to stop eating meat and cheeseburgers and pizza? I'm like, no, it wasn't hard at all. Like it was life or death. Like it was the easiest decision I've ever made. Like, yeah, this food could be poisoning me and this food could help me heal. Oh, that's a real tough one, you know? So let's talk about food. The plant-based diet is the most powerful anti-cancer diet. It's the most powerful health promoting diet, healing diet on earth. It doesn't have to be all raw, but all raw is especially beneficial for a season in life because it promotes detoxification better than a cooked food diet. And you get a lot of live enzymes and things. It's just wonderful. You just feel great. But plants promote health. Fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, legumes, whole grains, food from the earth promotes health. And eating animals promotes disease. Animal protein raises IGF-1 in the body. That's insulin-like growth factor. That's a that fuels cancer growth. Look, Google it, IGF-1 in cancer. Animal protein raises, especially red meat, raises iron in your body. And your body has a very difficult time getting rid of iron. And iron becomes toxic when you eat too much of it. And it fuels cancer growth. Cancer likes iron, heme iron from animals, not chelated iron, which is found in plant food, which is bound to an amino acid. So iron's a problem. And then there's this this amino acid called methionine that many cancer cells are dependent on to survive. And methionine is very high in animal food. It's very low in plant food. It's almost zero in fruit, very low in vegetables. There's some in beans and grains, but much lower than animal foods. So those are a few of the ways that animal protein can promote cancer growth. And then there's like saturated fat promotes cancer growth. Cancer cells like cholesterol too. Some of them prefer cholesterol and they like to use it for fuel. Depends on the type of cancer. There's a myth that cancer cells feed on sugar. Like that's a myth. It's a half truth. Okay. Yes, cancer cells like glucose, some of them, and they'll use it for fuel, but all your cells in your body use glucose. So it doesn't make them any different in that respect. Now they have more insulin receptors, so they use glucose faster than a normal cell, and that's why they light up on a PET scan. But what patients are not told, and most people don't read on the internet because they only read that sugar feeds cancer, is that cancer cells can flip a switch and use fat for fuel in the absence of sugar. And in the absence of sugar and fat, they can flip switches and use amino acids for fuel, like glutamine. So, this idea that you can starve cancer with the ketogenic diet is pretty much false, because some cancer cells prefer ketones for fuel. Ketones make some cancer cells grow faster. And then other cancer cells can adapt. They flip a switch. So you might starve them for a short time if you restrict all sugar, all carbohydrates, and only eat, butter and coconut oil, and, bacon, but they will adapt and they'll start using that for fuel. So my approach was not starving cancer cells. It was giving my body an abundance of nutrition that it could use to repair, regenerate, detoxify, and heal, right? So antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and all these amazing anti-cancer nutrients in fruits and vegetables. They contain all these wonderful compounds, like the cruciferous vegetables especially have sulforaphane and indole 3-carbinol, which are two sort of like rock stars in the anti-cancer nutrition world. Berries contain allicin, ellagic acid, and garlic contains allicin. Green tea contains EGCG. These are anti-cancer compounds that kill cancer cells, that prevent tumors from forming new blood vessels, that cause cancer cell suicide, compounds that boost immune function, boost natural killer cell function so that your body can identify and eliminate cancer cells more effectively. Like, it's amazing and miraculous how many powerful anti-cancer compounds are in fruits and vegetables. You just have to eat the food, right? Give your body the firepower it needs to fight the disease. And that gets me excited. So that's what I did, right? It was every day, hardcore fruits and vegetables. And I kept it very simple. I talk about it in the book, just exactly what I did every single day, over and over and over, to give my body as much nutrition as it could. And I just trusted it would use what it needed, and the rest, if it didn't need it, it wouldn't use it, and that's okay. Like, I was okay with taking copious amounts of supplements, and I was okay if I peed out most of them, right? Because maybe there's something in there my body can use, and it will. And if I'm not putting in there, it may not be getting it. And that's especially true if we're talking about like herbal formulations, right? Because herbs, like, you're not eating herbs, like, right? Maybe some cilantro or parsley or something, but there's a lot of fascinating herbs out there in the world that there's only one way to get them in your body, and that's to take it as a supplement or a tincture, So I took a lot of herbal formulations and compounds and things, just like, okay, just put it in there, maybe it'll help. And again, this is do no harm strategy. right? I did IV vitamin C. My local integrative MD, who's now passed away because he was in his 70s back in 2004. But yeah, he was doing IV vitamin C therapy, and I was so thankful for that, to have access to someone who was doing that. So I did everything I could find and afford at the time. And I monitored my blood work every month. I had CT scans every 6 months for a few years, and then around the 5-year mark, and it was like, no cancer. I had successfully prevented this recurrence that I was told was an almost certainty, and had me in fear for several years. I had to deal with fear every single day, to give my fear to God every day and just say, God, I trust you. I'm not going to be afraid. Like, I know you're in control. I know you're leading me. I know you're guiding me. I know you're providing a way for me. You're supplying all of my needs, and I trust you, right? Not going to be afraid. And along those lines of spiritual healing, I also realized that I needed to clean house. I needed to address the resentments and bitterness and envy and jealousy that was in my heart, because I was very prone to, I was insecure and just prone to envy and jealousy. And this is something that's worse now, I think, than it ever has been, right? Envy is toxic. It is such a toxic emotion. And it's comparing yourself to others, right? When you look at other people and you believe that they have a better life than you in some way, and that instead of being happy for them, right, you resent them. Because you always have a choice when you're introduced with or facing someone who appears to have some better thing or attribute or whatever than you, right? You can choose to be happy for them and celebrate their success or celebrate their blessing, or just say, wow, that's wonderful for you. Or you can let envy and jealousy and resentment and bitterness fester in your mind and in your heart. And those emotions will make you miserable and unhappy. And your focus will become myopic, right? All you'll be able to focus on is what you don't have. And when you focus on what you don't have, you forget about everything you do have. And so what I learned to do, and what I constantly encourage others to do, is stop comparing yourself to other people who have more than you, right? And start comparing yourself to people who have less. Because there are millions of people in this world who would trade anything to trade places with you, right? To live in a free country, right? Where you don't get stoned to death if you get caught stealing something, right? To live in a country where you could actually start a business for free, to live in a country where you have the internet. Millions of people in the world don't even have the internet, right? They don't have clean drinking water. They don't have electricity. They don't have the internet. They don't have cell phones. Like, you forget how blessed you are. You know, it's crazy how blessed we are to live in the US, or just to live in an industrialized nation, right? In a first world country. And I'm so blessed to have a wife who loves me, and parents who love me, and family and friends. And like, when I start counting all my blessings, gratitude wells up. And with gratitude comes joy and happiness and thankfulness. So, I mean, the antidote to bitterness and resentment, envy and jealousy, is gratitude. So stop comparing yourself to people who have more than you and start comparing yourself to people who have less, and you'll realize how good you have it. So I had to learn to do that because I wasn't doing it, okay? And I still have to catch myself, right? This is a practice. I still get little feelings of envy sometimes of other people. And I have to be like, what am I doing? No, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I feeling this way about them? Like, I have so much to be thankful for. I'm just going to focus on everything good in my life. So that was a big thing for me, and it's a big thing for cancer patients. I was jealous of anyone who didn't have cancer, you know? I mean, I was resentful toward people who didn't have cancer. That's, where I was in the beginning. And then I learned to be thankful for what I did have. And so I learned to be happy in the middle of being broke, struggling financially in a tiny house with cancer. I learned how to be happy in that, right? And I've carried that forward with me for 15 years. I've learned how to be happy no matter what my circumstance. And I'm thankful that my circumstance is better. We were able to move into a bigger home. I now have 2 beautiful daughters. My wife's still stuck with me after all these years and still loves me. Like, my life is better in every way having gone through cancer. You know, I don't look at it as a blessing, but God blessed me in spite of it. He used it to bless me. The bad thing became a good thing in my life. And that's how God works, you know? He works all things for our good. That's what's so beautiful about a loving God, you know, is that he takes bad things and bad circumstances and turns them around for our good. But you have to expect it. Like, you have to believe that he will. Like, when you understand and believe that he will, it's like you're empowering him to intercede on your behalf, to intervene on your behalf. So, and sometimes he does anyway, and then you figure it out later, even when you're faithless, you know, hopeless and faithless and everything else. And you look back and say, wow, God really orchestrated my life when I was a total worthless turd. I know we're running out of time, but I want to insert one more valuable piece of wisdom, and it's along these lines, and that's forgiveness. I learned to forgive. I'd never really learned how to forgive before until I had cancer, and I kept reading other patients and healers and experts talk about forgiveness and unforgiveness specifically as a root cause of disease and cancer. And I said, well, shoot, if this is a root cause, I'm going to forgive everyone who's ever hurt me. One by one, by name, I'm going to forgive every person. And I did. I just got quiet, and every time I would just close my eyes and pray, I would just search through my memory and think through my life and just try to find anybody in there who had hurt me and forgive them. And I said, I forgive them. God, they're yours now. I'm not going to carry this pain. I'm not going to carry this resentment. Like, they're all yours. You can deal with them, right? They're all yours. And I'm asking you to bless them, which is crazy. But you want to really seal the deal. You say, God, I forgive them, and I'm asking you to bless them. They're all yours. That will transform your heart, your emotions, your mind. It will free you from a prison of pain. I promise you this. Just do it. So that is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. And I'm telling you, you're going to learn a lot on this summit. There's a lot of things you can do to help yourself. But if you are not willing to forgive the people who've hurt you, everything else you do will probably be in vain. Because the one thing that can keep you sick is bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness. Those toxic emotions suppress your immune system. They promote inflammation in your body. They promote disease, and they perpetuate disease. And so I just want to encourage you, just reach out. If you don't know God, if you don't know if there's a God or whatever, reach out, ask for help, ask. Just say, hey, are you there? I need some help, right? Open up a Bible, read the book of John. It will change your life. Reading a Bible doesn't mean you have to become a Christian. Just read it, right? Just read the book of John, get to know who Jesus is, and then decide for yourself if this is somebody that you want to try to implement his life advice, right? If you want somebody you want to follow his advice, because I think you'll find Jesus is so misunderstood. You'll find that when you actually read his words and look at what he said and look at the way he loved people and treated people, you'll realize, like, this is someone we should all follow. There is no fault in this man. This is a perfect example of how we should love and treat each other. So that's for another interview, my friend. But but anyway, these are the things I did, and so now I'm imparting them to your audience.
Do you want to let everyone know where to follow up with you, where to find all things Chris Wark? And anything in particular you'd like to point them to?
I'm easy to find. It's chrisbeatcancer.com is the best starting point. Chris Beat Cancer is my social media handle. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I don't really use Twitter, but I do post on there occasionally. But pretty easy to find. I hope everybody listening will get my book, Chris Beat Cancer. It's on Amazon. It's in most major bookstores. It's a national bestseller. And it's, the culmination of really 15 years of not only living through cancer, surviving, healing, but then studying other people who've done it, and then really diving deep into the science on cancer treatment, on the drugs, on the industry, and then on nutritional science, anti-cancer diet, and lifestyle medicine. It's all in there. I hope your audience will go pick up a copy. It's, I don't know, $15 on Amazon or something like that. So
it's a good one. Well worth it. Chris Wark, thank you for coming on the Anti-Cancer Revolution.
Ryan Sternagel, my pleasure, man.
And again, this was one of many amazing talks from our Anti-Cancer Revolution online conference series. If you would like the entire first and second events, along with detailed notes from the talks, together with the actual slides from the presentations, and most importantly, the ability to ask these doctors and healers anything you want yourself directly, that's what you get with Going Integrative Plus. This is the resource and community my wife and I would have given anything for when we were going through cancer with our son. Each and every week we get one of the top integrative and holistic cancer doctors in the world on a call, and you get to ask them literally anything you want yourself. Listening to this podcast for your health is amazing, but getting to be the one asking the questions yourself about whatever you're currently trying to figure out dramatically shortcuts the learning curve and helps you make more right decisions faster and avoid the wrong ones. You also get every past call we've ever done, which is hundreds of hours of content that's all transcribed, time-stamped, and searchable, so you can see what all of our experts have said about any particular topic, which is a very nice antidote to how hard it's become to find good natural health information pertaining to cancer online these days. Huge discounts on all of our favorite supplements and devices, and maybe most importantly, a great community of people who are all on the same page with holistic healing. It is the absolute most valuable thing for someone serious about either preventing or reversing cancer we could imagine, which is why we made it. You can check it all out and become a part of it at goingintegrativeplus.com if you feel like this would be a helpful thing for you. And as always, remember, if you are going through cancer or anything else you'd rather not be, just keep going. God bless and Godspeed, and we'll see you on the next one.